The Property Owners Association of Bella Vista, in cooperation with Bella Vista Community Television, presents the monthly POA board meeting held at the Bella Vista Country Club.
I'd like to call the regularly scheduled February 18th, 2016 Board of Directors meeting to order. We will begin with, please stand in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Stay standing. Pastor Fred Schapp, retired pastor from Bella Vista Lutheran Church, will give us our invocations.
I want to make a couple of remarks before I begin the prayer. I've done this quite a few times over the last 15 or 16 years. This time's a little bit different. It's different for a lot of reasons, and some of that will be in my prayer. But I wanted to start with a passage of Scripture that the Holy Spirit inspired the Apostle Paul to share with a young pastor. Now, if it's good advice for a young pastor, it ought to be good advice for an older pastor. In that passage, he said, I urge you to pray for all people. Ask God to help the people that you pray for and give thanks for them. Pray this way for all the people who have positions of authority and government. Heavenly Father, I thank you for all the people who make decisions that are important to our city and its residents. I thank you for what I've seen you do in the relationship between the city government and the POA. I thank you for the gifts that you've given us in Mayor Peter Christie and in our POA General Manager Tom Judson. We ask that you would give them wisdom and guide them in all that they work with to operate with wisdom that would benefit the people of this community. I want to thank you for all the people that serve on the City Council and the POA Board, the volunteers who serve on the various committees of the POA. I ask you to enable them to be effective listeners and communicators. Protect the firemen and police and all the employees of the city and the POA. We thank you for all of these people who serve to strive to make Bella Vista a better place to live. And I ask your blessings on all of these people and their families. May they experience all the blessings made possible by your Son, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor.
You're welcome.
You may be seated if you're so inclined. Additions and deletions to the agenda. I'm going to delete one item from tonight's agenda. That item will be under new business, Roman numeral 10, letter D, discussion on proposed dock conversion at Loch Lomond for fishing use. We're going to drop that from the agenda because the subject has been sent to a subcommittee of the Lakes Committee for planning and discussion purposes. When they're ready to make a full recommendation to the board, we'll bring that back on our agenda. Approval of minutes of our January 21st, 2015 regular board meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Financial report by Dwayne Mitchell, our treasurer.
Okay, this is as the end of the year, January 16th, so just 1 month running in this report. And these reports are going to be in thousands of dollars. And this is attachment 7 in your packet on the POA. Looking at the top line, assessments are under budget, end of January, $61,000. Golf is a big one right here. It's over budget. It's better than budget, $939,000 in several areas, and we can talk about these. The big one is annual greens fees is $540. Now, anybody who bought any of these permits in December, the money and the units were moved to January because it's all for 2016. Annual seat leases, you can see, are next to $298. Anyway, you can see the positive numbers, 105. And the only negative we really have is guest in cart rentals. But a caution before you get too excited about all this, that we received annual fees earlier than what we had budgeted. They're budgeted through January, February, and March normally. And our forecast for February and March are projected to even out in the opposite way. So you'll see some negatives going back the other way. But hopefully by the end of the month of March, we should be very close to budget, hopefully over budget in those areas. But we really won't know on units. But just want to caution everybody because that looks great, almost $1 million better than budget. But that's going to be evening out. RV is the next item. It's about $31,000 less than budget. RV park is better than budget by 7. Storage is 37. Again, January is not the time a lot of people pay, and even though we budget at a certain time, people maybe stretch out and pay. Maybe due to weather, maybe due to a lot of things, but they can still do it in February, and we've actually had quite a bit due in February. Facility use fees is higher than budget. Photo IDs is kind of connected to the annual fees, while at the same time they renew their annual fees, they renew their photo ID, so that's why this one is kind of better than budget, 46. And facility use fees is the recreational fees, is the balance. Boat registrations. Boat registrations is positive. That's good. Boat registrations were kind of negative all year, but they're positive right this month for $9,000. Again, timing. Dock is above budget by $7,000. Those are both very positive. Interest on investments, we've seen this. We're going to talk about this more as we go along. But market conditions have been driving our investments down, so we're $26,000 less than what we had budgeted at this time. Transfer fees, down again about $17,000. A lot of timing. Other income, cell tower commissions are $24,000 higher than budget. Commissions are usually not budgeted at this time as have been in the past. And so that's the commissions we get paid in addition to the rent that we're charged. We charge the end user. And advertising sales are down about $13,000 in other. Total income, therefore, is $884,000 better than budget, and you can see for those items up above. Cost of sales is almost flat. Pro Shop is the only really driving force here. And January is always a hard month at the pro shops because they got a lot of items that kind of go out. I don't know. The cost of sales is really funny in January. Anyway, the cost of sales is higher than budget by $3,000. But then it's really early in the season to tell what that trend is. Gross profit, therefore, on this statement is $881,000 better than budget. Looking at the expense section, right off, salaries and wages are better by $112. In the past, we've kind of evened some of this out as we go along, but we've got instructions from the board. This is the actual. This is actually what's being paid, actually what was budgeted. Golf maintenance has open positions of about $23,000 of that variance. Golf operations, the floods, the courses were closed, and so the people weren't working. That's about $19,000. Delay and adjustment of a merit increase, about $20,000. F&A open position, both the legal department and an IT position, $15,000. And the balance is vacancy, hours, and others across the POA. Employee benefits, health insurance, very early in the season to see what that number is going to be, but it's $60,000 better than budget as of the end of January, based on our trend. Professional services is about the only thing that's kind of above budget here, and it's outside legal that we've had to pay, and some HR expense, about $13,000, which that's not really a big number, and that'll probably even itself out also, especially once we get our legal department back in shape. Interest expense and credit card charges, that is credit card charges, about $11,000 higher than what we had budgeted, mainly due to our annual permit sales. That's a good thing. Our permits were higher than budgeted, and so our credit card fees will be, because a lot of people pay with credit card fees, or credit cards. Total expenses, therefore, on this statement is better than budget by $173,000, and you can see for those same numbers. Income and cost of operation on the POA is about $1,058,000 better than budget. Looking down in simple cash flow, we had reserves for carryover things. We set aside some money for floods in 2015, right, the Christmas floods, we'll call them. About $14,000 was used, so we bring that forward to pay for some repairs that were made in January. Looking at the bottom simple cash flow, it's about $1,068,000 better than budget. Any question on this statement? Okay. Looking at the water statement, it's attachment 6 in your packet. Same thing, interest on investments. We've seen market conditions drive our investments down. That's about $20,000 down. Next, all the water numbers are positive. The new connections are better than budget by 4, disconnects are better by 1, and water sales are actually better than budget by 12, for a total of $17,000 better than budget at this point in time. Other revenue, water capital buy-in fee, and miscellaneous adds up to about a 9, better than budgeted. Total income, therefore, is 7, not a big number. Cost of sales is kind of concerning. Brad and I had this discussion last year. Cost of sales right now is 45.4, is budgeted to be 32.9. We had some timing issues about when reads were in different times in that. And also, Mike says we had some leaks that were concerning because we had some water-bought water sold and some inequalities there, so that's some of our costs too. By the end of March, we should see that number start leveling back closer to what we have budgeted, though. That's what our historical has been finding. Gross profit, therefore, is about $62,000 higher than budget, mainly because of our cost of sales. In the expense section of the water utility, we're $13,000 better than budget in labor for the same reason we kind of talked about before. We have some open vacancies. Employee benefits, health insurance, again, $9,000 better than budget. Maintenance and repairs, we have a savings of about $20,000 at this point in time, mainly to get a simple cash flow that's balanced. We have some extra repairs that we may do or may not do depending on where our end of the year numbers start falling in. Also supplies, about $21,000 savings there. Membership, training, and travel, we had a new employee that we relocated. Our water engineer, $5,000 there, it was not budgeted. Total expenses on this statement is also about $62,000 better than what we budgeted. Looking at our income on the water, about $2,000 profit. Looking at simple cash flow, about a -1 when we add back the depreciation difference. So we're about $700,000 less than budget, which is about flat, about even. That's our report. Any questions?
All right, great. Thank you, Dwayne. Response to previous open forum comments. There were none. Open forum. Anyone that would like to address our meeting tonight, if you would step to the microphone, state your name and address, and address the board.
My name's Michelle Gilbert. I live on Cargill Drive. Been here since 2000. My concern tonight is the information that I'm getting on allowing the city employees to buy membership cards. That's not really the heart of my concern. My concern is that if we can allow them to buy membership cards, then why can we not allow renters and even people who have more than, okay, I came to a board meeting before Christmas, and there was a gentleman who spoke. He and his wife were living with elderly parents, and he was asking to be able to buy a membership card. Their name was not on the title of the property, and they were told it was going to be a long, drawn-out legal mumbo-jumbo and working on it and all this, and then the next thing I hear, we're talking about selling membership cards to the city employees. Like I said, I don't have that big a problem with the city employees, but if they have the ability, if we have the ability to sell them membership cards, then I think we should visit very seriously the ability to sell membership cards to renters, whose the homeowners are paying POA dues, and to multifamily where they're staying, taking care of elderly parents and things. Those parents are paying POA dues and probably not using any of the amenities if they're having to have care. It just seems like if one is simple to do, the other should be just as simple. That's my concern.
Okay, Michelle, I think I can address all three of the subjects you brought up. As far as membership cards to city employees. That proposal has been tabled indefinitely, will not be brought up again. As far as renters being able to use our amenities through a membership association, you, as a member, will have the opportunity to vote on that subject in our next ballot, which will be in April or May. An affirmative vote of 2/3 of our members will, we hope, allow for renters to have those privileges with the exception of voting. And then the third concern you had about numbers of family members in a unit in a specific house was addressed previously in the board, and that number is no longer limited to 2. It's an unlimited number of family members that have that as a legal address of the individuals that own the house. So if Mr. and Mrs. Smith own it and they have their Mrs. Smith's parents and they have children that are over the age of 18 all living with them, all of those people with proper identification are able to obtain a membership ID card.
Fantastic, I
All right.
appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We'll move on then. Joint Advisory Committee reports. We'll start with the Lakes Committee. John?
Second, I didn't know I was doing this one. The Lakes Committee met yesterday. The committee was giving their annual welcome to the board and responsibilities speech by our General Manager, Tom Judson. Interesting questions and some good follow-up from them. There was quite a bit of discussion about the proposed docks at Loch Lomond, and they formed a subcommittee to handle that, and they should have a report for the board at some time in the near future. What I thought was the most interesting thing to me is the Lakes Department and the Golf Department have gotten together, and 2 of the lakes on the golf course, the farther south ones on Highway 71, are going to be currently drained, and we're going to start growing fish, crappie and
Walleye.
walleye. Thank you.
Hopefully walleye.
I had to look at Keith. He knew what the answer was. There's an issue with the Department of Natural Resources having a limited amount of fish to sell us. And so this is a solution to our problem of having difficulty getting fish. So we're going to try fish farming. And that's to be most of the high points.
Okay, thank you, John. Rick is.
Richard, our new fish manager, he actually has experience doing that at his last place.
And just so you're aware, those 2 lakes are going to remain dry for as long as a month. And the purpose behind leaving it dry is so evidently there are some bugs or something like that that need to be eradicated. And so not only is the lake being drained, it's going to be dry for several weeks, depending upon the weather. If the weather does not cooperate, then it would be dry longer, and then we'll put the fish in. What we don't want to do is put the fish in, and these invasive bugs would potentially eat the fish or kill the fish.
The fish in there now have been replaced.
All those fish have been harvested and relocated.
Recreation Committee report.
This is what I have notes for. The Recreation Committee met on February the 8th. It was their first meeting in the boardroom. They really enjoyed the facilities. Wanted to thank Bob for allowing him to be there. Mr. Judson did his review for board orientation package. I went over several issues that are important for new board members. On new business, the Recreation Committee in the past has elected their officers. In December, they decided to wait until January in future years so that new committee members and the old committee members would have an opportunity to vote on their officers. Second item, the committee discussed their current list of amenities and assigned different members to do inspections for those amenities. There is a little bit of discussion as to parks on lakes, and there's still a little question about whether the Lakes Department or the Lakes Committee or the Recreation Committee will handle that, and they're waiting for Mr. Judson to come up with a final answer.
And the final answer is that any park falls under the rec committee.
Boating safety class will be on April 30th at from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Reardon Hall. If you're born after 1986, you are required to have a boating safety certificate to use a boat on one of our lakes. Judy Griffin will be the social media monitor for the Lakes Department. Although she will not answer questions, she will give a report monthly to the committee about how things are working. Old business, pickleball courts. Clem Morgan discussed the pickleball courts at Met Field. He has one bid in on the contract that he has out and is looking hard to get 2 others. Ping pong, the rec committee is not recommending that we add another ping pong table. Usage wasn't as much as they suspected. There was a discussion on the hours, Sunday hours for Reardon Hall and Met Field, and the basic concern is we need to make sure there's enough usage to justify those additional hours. The Met Field Snack Bar will be open in 5 days. There's a new floor coming for the workout area, and the thing that they were the most excited about, January usage was up 44% from last year at the Metfield Rec Center. The Branchwood Trail, work continues to be done and they're moving along. Estimated completion date is mid-May. The committee is going to take up a discussion on Phase 2 and Phase 3 planning at their next meeting. Pistol bearing targets will be replaced. The POA is considering options for a building on site. Tanyard Creek. Water's down low enough to see what the damage was from the last storm. Interestingly, there are some rocks that are easily 8,000 or 9,000 pounds that got moved in the water. It is a bristling February, and the parking lot at Tanyard Creek is full on the weekends. So for those of you that don't realize it's a busy place, they're working on some plans to maybe do some overflow parking in the driving range parking lot. Dog Park has had some flood damage, and there was a discussion about how we're going to fix that. Some people were asking, users were asking to have half the park closed and half the park open, but we're going to close the park. The recommendation to the Vern and his group was to close the park for the month of March to allow for the work to all be done at one time, because some of that work is planting grass and getting it to go, and it's a lot easier to move the equipment in and out one time. Their next meeting will be held Monday, March the 14th at 4 p.m. In this room at the Country Club. Anybody who's interested, please come on out.
Thank you, John.
4. Did I say something different?
Speak into the microphone, please.
I was just wondering if they had a time change as a usual occurrence as opposed to just this one time.
They changed starting in January. 4 or 5 of their members are full-time employed,
Okay,
and it makes it easier for them to get here at 4 as opposed to 3.
thank you.
Golf committee report. Jake is in Florida on a sudden notice vacation to see his grandchildren. So I'm going to ask Keith Imes, our director of golf grounds, to give us a report and update on flood damage.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's been a busy time on the golf course doing things that we normally wouldn't be doing this time of year. So I want to do a little show and tell on pictures, and I'm going to give you some facts, and then I'll answer any questions you may have. Irrigation. We lost a lot of irrigation controllers again, as they've done in previous floods on the 3 courses in the valley, Burksdale, Kingswood, and Country Club. This is Country Club. This is number 2, right after the flood. This is number 2 now. We've put pedestals on these to get them up out of the water, so we won't lose all of them. This unit right here is about $7,000 to replace. So we feel this is going to save us some money going forward. We're going to do that at some level on all 3 golf courses. The Country Club will be completed by the end of the day tomorrow. This is just to show, this is the front of 8 green on the Country Club that blew out. It's a process to fix it. There's 12 inches of sand in the gravel layer, so we had to get all that patched. Got it ready for sod. Put sod from our nursery. Took about a week to fix that. That was fortunately the only green that had turf loss. This is kind of typical of around bridges. This is actually number 11. This is on the green side. That concrete stayed that we put in there, but it underwashed. So we had to take it out in order to fix it, which is here. And we put SB2 right now so we could play golf. Part of what we're doing going forward on these flood repairs is doing things to hope that we'll keep that from continuing to happen the same. A lot of the work that was done after all the work that was done after 13 stayed. An example here is we're going to have to design and do a head wall to help secure that going forward. So it'll be a while before we get back to doing that. Key was to get the golf course open. We had 22 greens that went underwater. That's a green that's silt. Some greens had trees and other debris. This is what you have to do to get the silt off. It took 4 people 1 day to do each green to get it off. It's a very time-consuming and will be challenging for us in the summer because you don't get it all off. So our normal aerification might have to be supplemented throughout the year on the greens that went underwater. We'll do the best we can to report that beforehand and be as least disruptive as possible. That's what our bunkers look like. I mean, this one, the drain washed out. This one, all the sand's gone. That's all silt plus a tree. You can see kind of how it went here. There's the drain line. It's gone. And that's what it looks like. We've repaired all of them except 2 at Country Club, and I'll explain a little bit what we're going to try to do there. That's a pile of gravel from 1 fairway at Scottsdale. That's another hole at Scottsdale. That's a hole down here at Kingswood. I believe that one's this is number 14 at Country Club. I've never experienced that much gravel on a golf course. This is an example of how we cleaned it up. We used big equipment, box blades, used a brush. This is something that they've started using the last couple of years. It pushes it off to the side. The guy that's driving the brush is not having a lot of fun here. Once it dries out, it gets a little dusty. That's kind of like Pigpen there. That was today. And this is actually the silt. That's not necessarily gravel, but silt. We just keep working and keep working and keep working. The bad thing about a flood this time of year is we don't have any growth in the turf. So we can't be aggressive, and it's going to be an ongoing process going into the spring and the summer more than likely. None of us know. The superintendents have been here 8, 9 years. They've had floods in 8, 11, and 13 for sure, but they're all in spring and summer. So this is a new ball game for all of us in many ways. This just gives you a little closer look what we were doing. This is number 2 at Country Club right after it. We're pushing off 3 or 4 inches of gravel. That's kind of what it looks like. Here's after you go over it once, it's fairly clean. This is what it looked like before. It's a challenge, okay? We're never going to get all of it, And I can tell you, I've taken some shovels into the fairways and dug down a foot, there's layers of gravel from previous years' floods. Again, the reason it's so noticeable to everyone right now, there's no turf growing on top of it. Okay, that's my picture story. I just want to go real quickly with what we have left to do. I think it's important that you know that my superintendents and myself document and keep track of everything we do. Each golf course has got each hole listed on the work we have left to do that we go through each week, mark off what we complete. I'm just real quickly going to give you the general big picture stuff that we have to do. Obviously, we got to put the new signage back at Burksdale. We believe the guy that did that is going to be able to patch what we have that's going to look really good the way he's going to do it. Should have those back out there pretty quickly, we hope, within 2 or 3 weeks, unless he's got a medical deal he has to take care of. But if he gets them done before that, we should have those out to replace the temporary ones. We've got to take down the old bridge that was damaged on number 12, Burksdale. Unfortunately, that takes a permit to do that. We're going to complete the irrigation controllers. As I said, Country Club will be completed this week. Burksdale and Kingswood over the next several weeks. I have one irrigation technician for all the golf courses. Unfortunately, he has a serious medical condition with his wife in the hospital. He's been out for the last 4 weeks, so it's been a bit of a challenge. But we've got help from our suppliers that are helping us get it done. Continue gravel removal. That's going to be going on for a while, into the summer, I'm quite sure. Bunker repairs. I mentioned that we repaired the bunkers that washed out. 2 bunkers on the back of number 3 we didn't repair. We talked about going in and fixing things where they would be better, using that billy bunker idea to drain. I had some concerns about billy bunker in a floodplain, so I wanted to talk to the manufacturer, be sure he felt it would work, talk to some superintendents that had it. They say it'll work. We went ahead and fixed the other ones because we didn't want to wait till the end of April for that contractor to get here. So we're going to do the 2 back bunkers on 3 as a test, because unfortunately we all know we're going to have another flood. So we'll see how it performs and how we can clean it. That's the plan there. We have to complete the bridge header repairs like I showed you on number 11. We have teeing equipment still to go out, signs, bunker rakes, markings on the cart path that we've had to change, things like that are going to take a little while. We're probably going to have to do some sod work in the spring. Don't know how much, but we have money put aside as a guess. We have to get rid of all those gravel piles you saw. That's not as easy as it sounds either, because you have to have permission to do that or use it on your own land, because if you give it to somebody that's not in POA, it's considered mining, and you have to have a permit for that. So we can't do that, so we've got to find places on our property where we can dispose of it and not have trouble with it. In addition, we've got more work to do along the creek edges and in the creeks, which I know you hear it a lot, but it's permits. But we have Don, our gentleman that works for us, working on the permit. He calls them every week. There's a lot of people looking for permits. The good news is we get one, we can do all of that. It's all encompassing, and it won't cost us because it's under a flood. Bad news is they're not in a big hurry. And then the other thing we're going to have in the spring, we're going to have a lot of weed problems from all that silt, so we're going to do a lot of post-control weeds. And we've got asphalt that is washed out, or the top is washed off. We're going to have to come back and replace that. As I think I said last time when I was here, I just completed a lot of that work from the 2013 flood in August of last year, so we're getting experienced at it. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, one other thing I think is really kind of neat. It's not neat, but you'll appreciate it. Over 1,900 total man-hours in January went toward flood work. 1,500 hours out of a total of 2,000 hours on the 3 courses down here were just flood. 75% of our time in the month of January for those entire crews was for flood control, cleanup. Scottsdale didn't have quite as many hours because only the front 9 was impacted there. So I thought those were some numbers that you could kind of relate to the work that we're doing and how much time it takes. So with that, I'd answer questions, or otherwise I'd say thank you. Yes, sir.
That bridge at 12, are you leaving the pylons in?
I'm going to have to leave the pylons on one side because we have to get our irrigation control system across there right now. And we think we can take the deck off without having a permit if we leave the pylons, because we can do it with a crane as long as we don't get in the water. That's what we're hoping. Yes, sir.
Do you have any idea, Keith, how many hours of volunteer work was contributed?
I couldn't tell you. I know there was a lot because they came out, first time the volunteers came out, it was bitterly cold. And then the next time we had some more, and we may still try to get a day or two to do some of the handwork on some of that gravel once I've gotten everything I think I can get with the big equipment. But I'm going to say we had between the 4 golf courses, at least the first day, at least 60 people that came out and worked. In the Scottsdale group, Larry told me he couldn't get them to quit. They stayed late into the afternoon to help him. So it's been a big help.
Well, I just want to make sure that, show in our minutes that those volunteers contributed significantly to getting us back into operation.
That's absolutely true.
Are you able to use any people from other courses? Are you able to use people from other courses, or do you have enough in each course that you need all the people you have?
Well, initially, when we first did it, we moved people from Metfield and Highlands down to help on the valley courses. Now, we really, the limiting factor, unfortunately, was some of the equipment we're trying to use, so we had to move it back and forth. And now, some of those guys are having to do their own thing on their own golf courses, the things they should be doing. So right now, the answer is no. Initially, was yes, we did.
Thank you very much, Keith, and please pass on our appreciation for all the hard work that your department does. One last thing regarding Joint Advisory Committee reports. John alluded to it in the recreation minutes. Our Chief Operating Officer did conduct orientation sessions with each Joint Advisory Committee. During those sessions, they are given a letter of understanding and acknowledgement that outlines their responsibilities and to the committee, to the board, and to the membership. Tom, thanks for conducting those in such an efficient manner. Old business, changes to selected bylaws. I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Operating Officer.
On your packet, you'll notice on the bottom right-hand corner, you now have page numbers. If you turn to page 49, you'll see that we're looking at bylaw, Article 8, Roman numeral 8, Section 1. This is the second and final reading. This makes the number of election committee members flexible. Any questions regarding that?
Do I have a motion to approve the change to the bylaws, Article 8, Section 1?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify with a raised hand. All those opposed, motion carries.
If you turn to page 50, you'll see the second article that the second bylaw we're going to look at. Once again, this is Article Roman numeral 8, Section 10. This is the second and final reading. Changes process for appointment of JEC members. Any questions?
And for the audience, we had several committee chairs communicate to us that there were not sufficient numbers of committee members to complete the number of tasks that each committee is asked to complete. And so, as a result of that, we looked at expanding the committees, and instead of expanding the committees to a set number, it was decided that each year there will be a variety of things that the committee chairperson will be looking at, and that this change would give them the option, along with the board chair, to designate the number of members that they feel would be able to serve on that committee to complete these tasks. I'll need a motion to approve the change to bylaw Article 8, Section 10.
Make a motion to approve the change to Article 8, Section 10 of the bylaws.
And a second?
Second?
Any discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. New business.
New business, if you turn to page 51 of your packet, this is the first reading of a proposed change to Board Policy 1.07. This revises the timing of when the agenda and the minutes are distributed.
Background for this change is in timing is a result of fewer hours to get the work done. And in case of the minutes, draft minutes being distributed, no corporations that we're aware of release draft minutes of meetings. It can become confusing and laborious, and we are electing to move in a direction that gives a better and more accurate portrayal of the minutes of our meetings. Do I have a motion to proceed with the changes to Board Policy 1.07, revising the timing and the agenda and minutes being distributed?
I'll make a motion to adopt Board Policy 1.07, first reading.
First and a second.
Set the changes to 1.07. So it's, perhaps we need to specify that we're not approving.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This,
changes.
I'll modify that motion to approve the proposed changes to Board Policy 1.07. This is not a new policy. This is a change to an existing policy.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by raising the right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
The next item is on page 54. This is the first reading of a proposed change to bylaw Article Roman numeral 7, Section 6. Revision states the interchangeable nature of the titles General Manager and Chief Operating Officer.
Chair will entertain a motion to change to the proposed changes bylaw Article 7, Section 6.
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify with raising the right hand. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Keith, if you could give us a quick report on the Scottsdale Drainage Ditch Repair Project.
Okay, this is number 13 culvert repair at Scottsdale. The project started a week ago Monday. Contractor Arco was the low bidder. Craft and Tall is the manager of the project. All of our permits are in place. They're working, and they will be completed by the 8th of April. If not, there are penalty clauses within that contract that they will pay for each day that they go past that time.
If you turn to page 56 of your packet, the next item is regarding the upcoming vote.
I just wanted to make mention of the fact that I've served on this board now for a year, almost 2 years, or moving on 2 years. It's the first time I've heard a contract that has a penalty clause for for not being completed. And I want to give this department a hand for holding a contractor to task.
Okay, on page 56, this email went out to the board on February 11th with updated information. If you recall, the board had asked management and the elections committee to work hard towards trying to increase voter participation. If you recall, the last election, the participation was at 23%, which is rather low. We came up with two solutions, or two areas where we felt that we could increase participation. First one is by including return envelopes that would have postage paid. Experience shows that this should increase participation by approximately 10%. And the second one was to offer online voting. And this one, we anticipate it will increase voter participation by 10 to 20%. Whether there's any bleed over between those two, it's hard to say. We'll learn a lot in this process. What we did was we went through and we interviewed a number of different companies that could provide this service to us. The company that we have selected goes by the initials TIE. We contacted multiple current customers, and we're very pleased with the report we received. We ran a Dun & Bradstreet check on them, an internet search, an LexisNexis search to do our due diligence to make sure that if this company that we were contracting was a good, viable company. You'll see that the cost of this is going to be higher than what we have experienced in the past. The total fee, not including postage, is $43,089. Really a hard question to determine how many people will send in a return envelope. We're hoping that more people do online voting, but we're estimating a high number of 8,000. We hope it's going to come down less than that. So the total cost of the election is $48,000. Previously, the election cost us an average of $22, but do keep in mind when you do apples to apples comparison, you have to keep in mind that you have approximately $5,000 in mailing postage that you would have to add to the 22. So you're really talking about a delta of about $21,000, and which allows us to have the service outsourced, which is good, having that much more of an arm's length removal, and which ensures further integrity, not questioning prior elections in any way, but just further integrity, and also the online, which we really feel could be a great benefit. I think over time, what we're going to see is the cost of the election is going to come down as more and more people get accustomed and familiar with doing online voting. But we'd rather give the board a high estimate for the first year and then come down from there.
Is there any carryover for the election group, the TIE group, that for if you do it next year, it's cheaper or anything of that nature, or do you talk at all about future contracts?
At this point, we've only been talking about the first year. Since this is such a large change for the Elections Committee and for management, we really wanted to see how it went, what the reaction was from the property owners, and I think it's a good idea, but I think I would probably delay that idea until next year. Let's see how the first year goes and then get locked in on a multi-year contract as opposed to getting locked in and then, God forbid, it doesn't go as well as we'd hoped, and then we're stuck.
So just to confirm, this is a one-year contract with no obligation to do it a second year?
Correct.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion for the proposal to outsource the voting, our election, the tabulation, our election to TIE Corporation.
I'll make a motion to authorize our Chief Operating Officer to engage TIE to outsource the election process for the upcoming May 2016 election.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any?
I'll just make a note that Tom included at the bottom of this report is that this recommendation has the support of our election committee. So this is not something that is being done at the objection of the election committee, but instead the committee agrees that this would be an appropriate expenditure to improve the election process and increase voter participation.
And I'd also like to comment, we've been holding weekly meetings with, joint meetings with staff and with the Elections Committee. The group has been working very well together. A lot of suggestions coming from both Elections Committee and from staff, and it's really a very cohesive group, everybody pulling in the same direction, with a limited calendar. But it's really working out. It's a good partnership.
They met all your dates?
We're hitting all the dates. We've been tracking everything. If anything, we're ahead of schedule right now.
Tom, can you comment as to whether or not there are any legal implications for changing over the way we vote?
Yeah, we confirmed it through our attorney that this was an acceptable method of voting.
And on that point, although this may not be on this topic, that attorney you've been consulting with is Doug?
Yes, it is Doug McCash. And Doug returns for his first day on Monday.
I will call for the question. Those in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
On item F, we have the chairperson of the Elections Committee, and as required by the bylaws, by the governing documents, we do need to do a drawing as to how the candidates are listed. Now, this is a little bit of an interesting situation in that we have 3 positions and 3 candidates. But we are still required to hold an election. That is required by the governing documents. Plus, we have the additional proposed changes to the declaration. So we would have to do the election anyways. But even if we didn't have those questions and we only had the 3 candidates, we would still have to do this. So this is, to a certain extent, a formality, but here we go.
Are we on here? Yeah, okay. Hi, my name is Buddy Gray. I'm your election committee chairperson for 2016. And to go this way? Face you all or this way? Or this way?
Whatever.
Now I can see all of you. The order of business this evening is simple. We just simply want to determine the order that your candidates will appear on the May ballot. So with that, I've got a little bowl here with the 3 candidates in it. I will randomly draw them out. The order that I draw them out will be the order they'll appear on your ballot. So we'll get started. And the first candidate will be Bruce Portillo. Your second candidate will be John Nuttall. I think the third one will be Andrew Davis. Questions?
Is there an opportunity for a write-in candidate?
We've not had that on the ballot before. I don't know whether
No,
that's
no.
something no? So it'll just be the
So you have
3
to get 50
candidates with 3 open
signatures in order
positions.
to.
I was just thinking that if a person received 50 votes, essentially, that's sort of a signature.
But
I'm
it's,
just asking.
yeah, but it's not.
No.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the Elections Committee for the dedication.
All right, announcements. The next general manager, we need to change, general manager board monthly meeting will be held on Thursday, March 3rd, 2016, 2:30 in the Country Club Board Meeting Room. This is a closed meeting. The next Board of Directors work session will be held on Thursday, March 10th, 2016, 8 o'clock here in the Country Club Board Meeting Room. And the next regularly scheduled Board of Directors meeting will be held Thursday, March 17th, which I believe is St. Patrick's Day. It isn't? It is, so wear your green or you'll get pinched. 6:30 here in the Country Club Board meeting. We are adjourned.
This has been the monthly meeting of the POA Board of Directors from the Bella Vista Country Club. This has been a production of Bella Vista Community Television.